Welcome back to Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life, the podcast. You're listening to 5 Minute Fridays with Coach Myrna. Today, I want to talk on the topic, the 80-20 rule in relationships. Now, I'm pretty sure you've heard of the 80-20 rule in business, how 20% of the customers are responsible for 80% of the business, even in commerce, in the economy. 20% of people are responsible for making the most amount of money. So the 80-20 rule applies to almost everything in life, but it also applies to relationships. Now, in 1897, the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto discovered that 20% of the population controlled 80% of the wealth and income. He found that this 80-20 principle held true not only for wealth and income, but for most things. For example, 20% of your employees contribute to 80% of your company's revenues. 20% of a team contribute to 80% of the results, and so on and so on. But today, I want to apply this same 80-20 rule or principle to our personal relationships. In relationships, we often hear of the 80-20 rule, and this translates into the idea of 80% of our satisfaction and happiness comes from 20% of the most important aspects of the relationship. So, what is the 80-20 rule in relationships? The 80-20 rule in relationships teaches us to focus on the major contributions to happiness and fulfillment. The 80% that our partner gives us, rather than getting caught in the 20% that we're missing. In other words, the minor flaws or imperfections. No partner or relationship is perfect, and expecting perfection would only lead to disappointment. But what if you focus on the 80% of things that really fulfill you? The shared values, the deep connection, the love that forms the core of your relationship. The 20% represent the inevitable challenges and annoyances that come from being two different people. And I heard of this rule when I was a young girl in my teenage years. My uncle Charles taught me this concept. He told me you would never get everything you want from a relationship. There will always be 20% that's missing. And I will tell you, I have been in over a dozen relationships, and I tell you that's a fact. But in today's date and age, maybe you get 50% and you're lucky. Now, the statement I made earlier was that 20% of what someone does contributes to your happiness. But we are not thinking, I'm not going down that path where we only get 20% and we lose 80%. I'm spinning this around that we're only not getting 20%, even if of that 80% that someone has given us, then only 20% is really contributing to our happiness. Like if your husband cooks and cleans and looks after the kids or whatever, the thing that's most important to us is he spending quality time? Is he talking to us? Is he listening to us? Is he encouraging us? So that may be what they're talking about of the 20% that contributes to your happiness. But I want to talk about us not getting bent out of shape because of the 20% that we are missing. Even if it's 50% that we're missing, if it's 50%, maybe you might have to make a decision. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that there's a perfect person out there who will meet 100% of our needs. But in reality, no one can fulfill everything they desire all the time. If we're not careful, we may become fixated on the 20% of things that a partner lacks or does imperfectly, rather than appreciate the 80% that he or she does right. And this can create unnecessary tension and dissatisfaction in our relationships. For example, you might focus on your partner's untidiness, how they aren't great at expressing their emotions, things that might fall into 20% that frustrate you. But what about the 80%? Are they loyal? Are they supportive? Are they kind, reliable? Often we let the minor imperfections overshadow the majority of the relationship that's actually working well. Now, if you have OCD and demand a perfectly clean and tidy house, then that 20% might be your deal breaker. But if you're not willing to overlook it and focus on the 80%, then maybe it's a deal breaker for you. Maybe that dirty socks by the door upsets you so much, it drives you so crazy that you said, no, I can't live with this, and you leave. But I will say you will be stupid, because you might go out and get somebody that picks up their socks, but then you're losing a whole bunch more. That is the purpose of this conversation today. So now, if the 20% you're missing is no sex, would you leave to go find it? Only you can answer that, right? Because there's a lot of sexless relationships now, but people stay in them because of the kids, because of support, security, finances, all those different things. So again, you got to make that determination. But I want to let you know that you need to start appreciating the 80%. The key to a healthy and successful relationship is to focus and nurture the 80% instead of obsessing over what your partner doesn't do. Think about what they bring to the table. Do they make you laugh? Do they support your dreams? Do they show up for you when it matters? This 80% of where your attention and energy should go to. When you focus on the good, you cultivate gratitude. Gratitude strengthens relationships by shifting the focus away from what's lacking to what's abundant. It's not about ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing the positives far outweigh the negatives. Of course, the 20% still exists. Every relationship has its challenges, and no partner is without flaws. The 20% might be those little habits that get under your skin, or the areas where your partner just doesn't meet with your expectations. We all have those. We come into relationships with expectations. I remember this guy once told me, leave your expectations at the door, because your expectations is always going to mess you up, right? We come from this culture where we've been preloaded with what a guy is supposed to do, with what a girl is supposed to do, what your wife is supposed to do. I was just listening to an Instagram post or watching an Instagram post with Jennifer Lopez, where she's saying, I'm not your mama. I'm not doing your laundry. I'm not doing all these things. But you know what? The relationships that I get into, the guy's expecting you to cook and clean and will do his laundry. It's expectations. Now you get into a relationship where the woman says, I'm not your mama. Then what are you going to do, right? Are you going to cut and run? Or are you going to learn to appreciate the things that she's actually doing for you, right? So the key is to manage the 20% that you're not getting in a healthy way. Rather than let it fester, change the way you think about it, and it will change. My most famous quote: change the way you think about a thing, and the thing you look at will change. So instead of becoming frustrated that your partner doesn't talk, understand that it's their personality and accept them for who they are by embracing their imperfections. There's a balance between addressing concerns and nitpicking. Focusing too much on the 20% can create an imbalance, leading to resentment and dissatisfaction. So the 80-20 rule also helps us to keep unrealistic expectations in check. Many relationships suffer because of false beliefs that everything should be perfect all the time. When a partner or a relationship doesn't meet those inflated expectations, it can lead to dissatisfaction, or worse, the search for someone better. Understanding the 80-20 rule helps us realize that perfection is not the goal in a relationship. Contentment, growth, and connection are. Accepting that no partner will give you everything at all times allows you to focus on nurturing the aspects that truly matter. The mistake people make is to leave a relationship for the 20% they're not getting, only to get that thing in another relationship or lose something else. Because I started out by saying you will never get everything. There's always going to be 20%. We're going to stick to that number, but sometimes it's more that you're missing. You leave a relationship because you could not stand the mess. You find a partner that's clean and tidy, but he lies and cheats. Now, then you wonder, why did you leave? Why did you make that decision, right? So there's a danger in chasing that 20%. In some cases, people can fall into a trap of chasing after the missing 20%, either in their partner or by seeking it elsewhere. It's easy to become fixated on what's missing. Think that the grass might be greener on the other side. That mindset often leads to unnecessary conflicts, even the dissolution of a relationship that otherwise might be fulfilling. I remember when I heard this quote, the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. Right? So maybe the 20% that you're not getting, maybe you can start watering that thing and maybe it will grow. The truth is, when you leave a partner because of the 20% they lack, you're likely going to end up in a new relationship where the roles are reversed. Maybe that new person meets that missing 20%, but now they're lacking in the 80 that you previously had with the partner that excelled in. For instance, the example that I give above, maybe you're chasing sex, but now that you had great sex and nothing outside the bedroom, you picked up the 20% that's missing from your previous relationship, but lost the other 80. Always be aware that there will always be something missing. You can never have it all. Don't be hoodwinked by thinking that you can have it all. There's always something missing. Here are a few ways to start applying the 80-20 rule in your relationship. Identify the 80%. Take time to reflect on what your partner brings to your relationship. What are the qualities you love? What makes you feel secure and happy in the relationship? Acknowledge and appreciate those aspects regularly. Tell them, say it. Men love to be appreciated. It's their number one thing they look for. Appreciation. Show your appreciation. Do not start talking all the time about what they're not doing. Appreciate what they are doing. Communicate about the 20% that you're missing. I'm not saying nag about it, but maybe try to get it. If there are areas where you feel unhappy or frustrated, approach them with grace. Be open and honest in communication, but don't let the 20% dominate your relationship narrative. Focus on solutions rather than complaints. No man likes a nagging woman, right? The Bible says that a man will rather live on a part of a roof than, have a nagging woman that's always complaining about what she's not getting. Number 3, practice gratitude. Make it a habit to express gratitude. Share with your partner what you appreciate about them. The simple practice can transform the way you see each other and strengthen your bond. Number 4, accept imperfection. Let go of the need for perfection. Your partner is human, and so are you. You got faults too. By accepting each other's imperfections, you can create space for love and connection to flourish without unnecessary pressure. Number 5, balance focus. It's easy to fixate on problems, but challenge yourself to shift focus. When you find yourself obsessing over the 20% that you're not getting. Remind yourself of the bigger picture of the 80% that you are getting that's going well. So, in conclusion, focus on what really matters. The 80-20 rule in relationships teaches us a valuable lesson. No one will ever be perfect, and no relationship will meet 100% of your expectations. But when we focus on the 80% that brings the joy, fulfillment, and connection, we can build stronger, healthier relationships. Embrace the good, manage the challenges, and remember that love thrives when we focus on what really matters. Appreciate your partner. Tell them, show them. And if they have faults, embrace them too. Because we should accept people for who they are and not want to change them. All right. Well, listen, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of 5-Minute Fridays with Coach Myrna. I hope that I left you some nuggets. I hope that if you're right now thinking about what you're missing, that I'm able to put some perspective on your relationship. Go ahead and enjoy it. Enjoy your man, enjoy your woman. And hey, you never know. That 20% might show up. All right. Thanks again. Until next time, namaste.